1967 was a brilliant year if you were a Scot and if you were a football fan. Of course, it's a year we all believe we became the world champions. I think we became the first side to beat the world champions at Wembley. An amazing feat for us. It was something we did quite regularly in those days, and we don't do so much these days. But I remember it was an amazing occasion. Dennis Law played and Jim Baxter, two of my massive heroes when I was a kid. Jim Baxter keeping up the ball, flicking it up, walking around, I think sitting on the ball. You know, it was just an amazing day for any Scots football fan. England, you know, 9 times out of 10 in those days would probably have beaten us, but on that particular day and the way the lads played and the way Scotland went about it, it was just written. It was meant to be. Fabulous occasion, one I will never ever forget. The day that the Scots became champions of the world. It sounds wonderful. I think Sandy's 2 wins in '85 in the Open and '89, I think it was, in the Masters, were phenomenal. I don't remember much about Royal and Lytham. I remember he held off Payne Stewart in the final round. He shot, I think, a very ordinary 70, but probably in difficult conditions. And I know Payne Stewart came hard after him. But he held on, he won it by 1. But it's Augusta I remember, and particularly the 18th on the final day, when his nerves must have been tested to the extreme. And when you hit your drive into that bunker at down 18 at Augusta, and you know you have to get up and down, pretty much it's not easy. And it seemed to me like it was just such a lip in front of him, a huge cavernous bunker it seemed. And, you know, to pull, I think it was a 7-iron out and hit it right over the stick, and see it come trickling back down that hill again. I remember watching it vividly, and think, urging it on. It stopped about 12 foot short, but Sandy rolled the putt in, and, you know, magnificent achievement. It was just a pity that he didn't go on, Sandy, and achieve more and win more, because he was arguably, I think people say, one of the most naturally gifted golfers. It was almost as if he could play without being taught. He just picked up a golf club and he swung it, and great achievement to win 2 majors. To win 1 major is enough for most golfers. To win 2 is pretty special. I'd always believed Andy Murray had a major in him, a Grand Slam in him. Never was one of these who felt like a lot of people, he'll choke all the time, he won't do it. And even though he's playing in an era where he's probably against 3 of the best tennis players we've ever seen, in Djokovic, Nadal and Federer, I still believed Andy was good enough. I still believed he had the equipment. But I also think that the Olympics were fundamental in his belief in turning him into a winner of a Grand Slam, because I think what he achieved in London this summer during the Olympics was phenomenal. With the pressure that goes on being Britain's #1, the Olympics in this country, everyone expecting, and the way he did it was just phenomenal. He took that to the US Open in Flushing Meadow, New York. And the final against Djokovic, I can remember sitting up to the early hours of the morning in my hotel room in London when I was there, and I just refused to go to sleep. It was just an astonishing tennis match. Thought he'd won it early on, then thought he'd lost it, but he dug deep enough, and he was so physically stronger than Djokovic in the end that proved the telling point, and absolutely made up for him. So fantastic to see Andy win his first Grand Slam, and I think there are more to come. 1967 and the European Cup final in Lisbon that involved Celtic was obviously for a Rangers fan, and I was only 11 years of age then, just coming up for my 12th birthday. So I probably wanted Celtic to get beat, you know, if I'm honest. I was 11, I didn't know any better. I was a Rangers fan. Why would I want Celtic to win the European Cup? I'd rather Rangers win it, or else I'd rather Inter Milan. But when you look back now, and I've been involved in the game for so long, it was an amazing feat, and one that Scotland as a whole should be very proud of. And to be the first at something is very, very special, very special. And Celtic were the first British side, not just Scottish, but first British side to lift that trophy up, the European Cup. And you can never take that away from them, no matter who wins it after that. Manchester United won it after that. Yes, they were the first English side, but they weren't the first British side. So when you're first at something, then that is very, very special. And Celtic had a great side in those days. I was fortunate to play against quite a lot of them in their latter years. They're a little bit older, in the early 70s when I started playing. But they were a fantastic side, and you know, that's that statistic that comes out, that they were all born within 30 miles of Parkhead. We will never see the likes of that ever in football again. So an amazing achievement, and rightly Celtic and Scottish football can be very proud of it. We did speak to Chris just before the games. They were opening, or they were naming a new velodrome in Glasgow after him. I think the Sir Chris Hoy velodrome, and we were talking to him about that and what he felt that he could achieve. And I don't think people like that go into the Olympics or do their sport to consciously think, I'm going to be the best, I'm going to be the greatest ever Olympian. I think it just happens. And Chris has a talent to be the best at what he does. And he used that he got a bit lucky, we know that. But every great athlete needs a little bit of luck now and then. They might easily have been eliminated from a race when one of the riders fell right at the beginning, but they got a second chance and they took it. And delighted to see, you know, Chris right up there. You know, he really can consider himself to be, you know, one of the Britain's greatest Olympians. And, you know, there are some who may pass him with regards to totals, but they will never take that title away from him. He is one of this country's greatest Olympians. Jackie was born and worked not very far from where I was born. He lived probably about, I would say, 7 or 8 miles from my home in Glasgow, in a little garage near Dumbarton. And he was a mechanic there, his dad's garage, I think it was. So we knew quite a bit about Jackie as a young boy, but I don't think we ever thought he was going to achieve what he did. And in those days, there was a lot of British competition. You know, Jack Brabham, John Surtees, Graham Hill were all still racing, and all racing, you know, pretty strongly and pretty keenly. So we had that British contingent to cope with. People like Jackie X as well were racing. And I think everyone, certainly we in Scotland, believed that if Jackie could win one title, that it wouldn't be the only one, because he was so driven in everything he did, and has been since as well in everything he's done. That's why he's such a successful businessman, I believe now, because he drives himself to the extreme. And I think we all knew that once he crossed the line and got that first one, there would be more to follow. But the first one is often the hardest one to win. And to win it as well as he did, you know, I think he was about 29, 30 points ahead of his nearest rival. I mean, that's a distance. That's a distance. You've almost lapped him. And that's how confident Jackie was. He had some good cars. He'll admit that. He had some good cars. But you still have to drive them. You still have to finish the races. And obviously in those days it was a much more dangerous sport than it is now. So there was a lot of things to cope with, and absolutely top class. He was a fantastic sportsman, Jackie, and you know, 3 world titles tells you everything you need to know about his quality.
Daniel playing it towards Andy Gray, could be interesting, and this is the ball.